So I hated working in IT, or at least I thought I did. I started right after high school, went into a startup company. They gave me some cool equipment, a rack of Netra T1s, some E450s, dev and prod, and we had a big team where we were all using CVS. For a versioning system back in the day, it was right around the dot-com bubble, so about 1998, 1999, which is pretty old, I guess. But the thing I didn't like about IT was you got laid off. I got laid off twice. It was fairly easy to find a job the first time. Second time, it was much more difficult. You know, it was, oh, you're an expert at Sun OS, we use Solaris, or you use Debian, we want Ubuntu, or you use Perl, we want Python, that type of thing. A lot of parallels to what we see today. And so, you know, I started thinking about it, and well, first off, I went into the ICS world, which was a lot more rewarding for me. I was able to pick it up pretty quickly. Currently, today, I do SCADA systems for data centers, and primarily I focus on containerizing SCADA systems, doing some unit testing, functional testing, so we can scale things up quicker and faster. Data centers are all about speed of deployment, speed of commissioning. I still do hardware trainer builds for ICS Village and vision systems and stuff on the side. About 2 years ago, I jumped into ICS Cybersecurity and got laid off again, but was able to jump back into ICS world. So I started thinking to myself, there must be a way to build in resilience to your career. You know, we spend so much time building resilience into the systems that we work on, our processes, our organizations, but we don't really spend any time building resilience into our careers. And I see, you know, everybody getting laid off today. It feels much similar to what I went through in the dot-com bubble. And I'd kind of like to put together a framework of resilience for people out there. So starting out, when I was putting this talk together, my son was getting into the Dark Souls world, and Dark Souls is kind of a video game. I don't know if you're familiar, but it bases itself around being very difficult. And so whenever you fall off a cliff or you get hit by an arrow or something, you start over from where you were. You don't really get anything. You don't save any experience or the things that you've earned along the way unless you lock them into a skill or a stat. And so it has a parallels to what we're going through today, and that I feel like people, you know, are in their careers, they're learning their processes and the systems, and then they get laid off and they have to start over. So I think we should focus on locking down stats that are going to move us forward in the progression of our careers. So resilience is your problem. It's not something that your boss is going to help you with. Nobody in your team is going to help you be more resilient, because resilience is mobility, meaning if you build in those skills that are attractive to other employers, you're going to have more opportunities, and it's going to be somewhat it's going to be somewhat negative to the company you're working for. What does resilience look like? You got to be strategic, have a 3 to 5 year outlook, see what's coming down the road, and then create skills that build momentum against your goals that you want to do. And then you need to acquire some intel, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that allow you to align where you're going with what the industry is doing. And then also have some second order thinking. You know, if I put some time and effort into learning this skill, what is it going to translate to in the future, or what could I do with that other than just the skill itself? Oh, and just like Dark Souls, there's a boss that appears right in the beginning. and it's the AI hiring process that we're all facing right now. Both from somebody, if you're looking for a job or you're trying to hire employees, you're bumping into this right now. The positive of it is maybe it's the end of coding challenges and book reports that we all know and love from interviews. And some of the negative stuff that I've been hearing about and seeing are fake resumes, interviews, and junior level roles might actually end up being harder to find just because some of the senior people are able to increase their work output by using AI and eliminating some of those lower level tasks that the junior people might end up being hired for. Interviews are pretty crazy. I heard a story of a friend of mine that was interviewing somebody, and he was using, presumably the guy he was talking to was using Google AI to generate the answers to the questions the interviewer was asking. So that was kind of interesting. So how do we beat AI? You gotta talk to your network. Most of the time, people that I've seen personally are getting jobs through their network. I've had 8 jobs in my career, and 6 of the 8 have come from my network. And you're gonna call on those people all throughout your career. So never be a jerk to anybody, never burn a bridge, and always help out where you can. Like I said, 75% of my opportunities come from network contacts. And if you don't have a network, some of us are just starting out, build a portfolio, come to events like this, meet people. I think in the future, resumes are going to be going away just because of the ability for people to fake them. And so a portfolio is going to be really important in the future. I give the resume maybe like another 10 years and it'll be done. Any role with data is going to be impacted by AI. So I'm thinking, like, sad to say, network engineers, people that work with firewalls. They say, Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, says that management jobs or middle management jobs are going to go away because of AI. I find that hard to believe. I think Google probably has really good data for the management roles, so they're probably in a better position to eliminate some of those roles with AI. But most companies that I've seen have really poor data for management, so I don't think that AI is going to have an impact immediately until they get some of that data, better quality, cleaned up. But any role that's overhead, I'm thinking, man, maybe HR might go away, that type of thing. Sad to say. So when you look out on the internet, it's funny. The Souls games have kind of a structure where you can say, here's how you should set your character up in order to beat this early game or the mid game, late game. And I thought about the same thing for engineers, or if you're in IT or OT, how do you set yourself up early game, mid game, late game so that you're successful throughout your career? So some things you want to do in early game, pick a platform or a stack that has growth. Don't pick like Allen Bradley or Siemens or something like that. Great platforms. Don't pick a PLC that nobody uses and expect to grow with it. Intentionally level up your communication skills. It's hard to do when you're young. You think, I just want to be technical, but it's going to serve you later on in your career. Remember, we're picking skills that allow us to level up throughout our career and compound. Get comfortable working with data, learn how to present data, learn how to understand what data looks like, what good data is, what bad data is, clean it up, and then start exploring system architecture and networking. Those are going to compound and add to your mobility later in life. Don't over-specialize or go down a niche path. It's okay probably in your early career, but you want to watch out for being the guy that only knows this one little thing. that can really hurt your career progression over time. And don't focus too much on your failures. Nobody really cares all that much. If you fail, just own up to it and just move forward. Mid-game, if you focused on communication throughout the early part of your career, later on you're going to get better persuasion techniques. There's people out there like Chris Voss that you can look at that teach you how to persuade. Persuasion is great when you're talking to your boss about, hey, I want to get this project done versus that project, or I think we should go in this direction versus that direction. All these things require persuasion. Even negotiating for a job or talking to HR for a raise or whatever it may be, you want to have a little bit of persuasive ability. And also for your team, if you have people that have conflicting visions on what's going to go on, persuasion really helps you there. Invest some into business skills. I see people that don't understand business, and so they can't really understand why they should abandon a project versus another project. Maybe another project has better ROI and benefits to the company, and they overlook that because they don't have that business exposure. So invest in business skills. It's going to serve you a long time. Focus on concepts, ideas, not necessarily tools. You don't want to be the guy that knows Perl and everybody's moved on to something else. You want to be in the ICS world. You don't want to be the Alan Bradley guy. You want to be the guy that knows how to program PLCs or SCADA systems, not necessarily a specific piece of hardware or a tool, just because people will pigeonhole you into that tool and it's hard to get out of it. And if you focused on networking data, you're going to unlock some ICS cybersecurity. I tend to believe that cybersecurity is a higher level skill. You need something below it to fall back on. So if you're going into cybersecurity, networking is a good base level skill to add cybersecurity on top of that. I see people trying to go right into ICS or cybersecurity in general, and it's very hard because they don't have those underlying skills. It's just they want to be into the cybersecurity, and I think it's more of an advanced skill. It's unlocked with other underlying techniques. Late game, things you should focus on. The higher you get in an organization, eventually you bump into politics. So if you focused on persuasion and business, you're going to be able to navigate the politics and understand what's going on a little bit better. It's just part of the world that we live in. And then there's two paths usually. There's a technical path and there's a people path. And companies set themselves up like this. It's frustrating at times, but you can either be technical, at which point they kind of put you in the corner and say, don't bother him, leave him alone. And then there's the people role where it's kind of what have you done for me lately type of thing. There tends to be more runway for the people roles. So if you choose that path, you might end up with a higher salary. Not that you can't with technical, but it's very the technical high-end roles are very difficult to come by, like the CTOs and CISOs and stuff like that. So, as I was mentioning earlier, Dark Souls is all about starting over, and our careers are all about starting over. We're going to get, hit by the proverbial bus on the Friday afternoon, and we're going to have to start a new job. It's just going to happen, so you got to plan for it. This is something that I looked up, and apparently every 1 to 2 years in IT is the median tenure for an organization. I think that's probably skewed a little lower because of startups and stuff like that. In the ICS community, it's 5 to 10 years, which I tend to agree with. This is the median value, and they use the median value so that people that have been there 50 years don't skew the average to the high side. Median is, if you line up all the values, you take the one in the middle, and it's kind of a more accurate representation of the data set. Now, how did we get to this 1 to 2 years and 5 to 10 years? When I was a kid, my granddad worked for a company for like 40 years and got a pension. I've heard of people, working 50 years and stuff for companies. The Revenue Act of 1978 kind of took some of that pension and companies started to put it into what's called a 401k. Everybody has a 401k here probably. What that did was de-risk companies from having to hold that money and give you a pension. Instead, they would just give you the one-time check, and you would go on with your life, and then they didn't have to hold that money in reserve. So it kind of freed up some of their assets. And then you see a lot of contract to hire jobs now, and this is both de-risking strategies from companies. The first one is obviously financial, and the second one is a bunch of different reasons. Could be, they don't want a bunch of employees showing up on their books if it's a publicly held company. It could also be, they want to be able to let you go in without any issues. So knowing that, you need to come up with risk mitigation strategies for yourself. And that means you're not your job, so pull back a little bit from that and realize that you are more than just what your company says you are, and you've also got to incrementally build your skills. So every day you go to work and you're doing something that's for your company, but you need to kind of lock away those insights and think about how that's going to impact you 3 to 5 years from now. What skills can you build on? Where are you going to go? And move to a transactional mindset. Companies more and more often are moving to more of a transactional system where, if you're not cutting it, then you're let go, or if, this or that. It's just the way it is in the world. So let's talk about leveling up a little bit. Like Dark Souls, you gain some experience, and then you put those experience points into a stat. So what would I concentrate on? So for me, you have to have some sort of balance in your life, and there's things that matter to you, and you have to pick out these things that all of us have. And why are we going to work in the morning? What are we doing that for? And each of us are going to have different opinions, and this is mine. This is kind of my philosophy. But the foundation, the block that the guy is standing on there, that's your well-being. If you're not happy and healthy, and your family's not happy and healthy, then none of this matters. So that comes first. You've got to focus on a growth mindset. So don't just be constantly going to work and just earning a paycheck. You've got to have some sort of strategy to get you to the next level. And the stool that the guy is standing on there has 3 legs, and there's 3 things that really matter when you go to work every day. And it's possible that you could probably balance on 2 of those legs, but if 2 of the legs are gone, then the whole stool falls over, and you probably need to find another job or do something else with your life. The first leg is your team. So every day you go to work, do you like working with people or that you interact with on a day-to-day basis? Your manager, you get along with him or her or whatever. Do they challenge you? Are you working with people you can learn from? You kind of want to be in a role where you're not necessarily the smartest person in the room. You want to be challenged by the people that are around you. If you're leading a team, you want to be engaged, have some buy-in from leadership, ability to drive some initiatives, and then given some space to actually get it done. So that's our leg 1. Leg 2 is the challenges, things that come up over time that you work on your projects, whatever you may be doing? Do you have some growth opportunities and able to learn some new skills? Are they interesting? Do they have visibility to the organization and impact? Nobody wants to work on a project that nobody cares about. So that's like 2. Oh, there's another boss. Stagnation. I see this a lot with some of the people where you're staying in a job where there's no growth opportunity. Nobody's keeping up with what's going on in the industry. You're kind of behind the curve. And then some of the ways that you could identify that is through growth metrics. Are you getting raises every year? Every 3 to 5 years, you should probably try to get a promotion. If you're not getting a promotion every 3 to 5 years, ask yourself why. Work with your manager. Is it repetitive? Are you doing the same thing every day and not getting to the next level? And are you getting signals from others in your organization that the work you do really doesn't matter? These are all things that you need to watch out for. I've seen people fall into this trap. The problem is if you stay in this trap for 10 years and then you get laid off, you don't have the skills accumulated in order to find a new job. It makes it much harder. So again, we're not being resilient. So every day you got to take account of your skills and make sure that you're staying on top of things. Make sure that you're aligned with that 3 to 5 year goal that you've set for yourself. Track what's happening in the industry. Make sure that the company that you work for is actually keeping up with the industry. And if you're not doing all that stuff, you need to make some changes. The first thing I would suggest is you talk to your manager and just say, look, this is kind of what I'm wanting to do. Lay all this out for him or her and say, this is a problem for me. And then the leg 3, of course, compensation, because we all go to work to make money for our families. You need to understand where you're at financially with your company. And the way I do this is you take your salary, you take your 401k, if you get a bonus, any vacation time, you break all that down into an hourly number. So you might be $20 an hour, $25 an hour at the end of all that calculation. And then when a new job comes in and they say, well, it's going to be this, the base salary is this, and you might get a 5% bonus or whatever it may be, you do the same thing for that, and then it gives you a nice even number that you can compare to, because it's very hard to compare compensations across companies. But that final number, that's going to give you the apples to apples comparison. Of course, that's just the money side of things. There's a lot more to it. If you're not happy with the culture and the stool that you're standing on proverbially is broken, then you definitely need to fix it, and maybe that doesn't add up exactly into monetary terms. So if your stool is broken, talk to your manager, reach out to your network, find out if there's something out there that really could fix some of those issues that you're having, and start collecting intel about what else is out there. Or, hey, maybe you're killing it, you just don't know it, and maybe you need to get calibrated to making sure that you are in line with utilization. Another mini boss that comes up. Has anybody ever had this conversation with your manager? Utilization, what's the next thing that comes out of their mouth? It's not your responsibility, it's the manager's responsibility. This happens all the time. I've had this a couple times in my career, and usually it's a canary in the coal mine that he's or she is getting asked by their manager to make sure that everybody's maximizing their utilization. Utilization is just the percentage of time you spend on working on either inside or outside projects that bring in money, not overhead. He's right, you're not responsible, you're accountable, which means if your utilization is below a certain level, 70, 80, whatever percent the company sets, you're liable to get laid off just because it's an easy thing for them to sort on a spreadsheet, is probably my opinion. But it also could be, so things you can do: know your utilization, work cross-functionally if possible. So pick up some work from other teams. But it also could be team-based. So if your utilization is highest, let's say your utilization is really good organizationally, but your team, it's low in the team, you could be in a bad situation too, because they might lay off a certain number of people in each team. So it's a mini boss, like I said. You got to defeat it, and it's really hard to do. NPCs. What game wouldn't have NPCs in it? And recruiters. I love recruiters, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to talk to recruiters. There's two types of recruiters. There's internal recruiters. These guys don't mess with. They are important in the hiring process. Usually they show up after you've made it through the first screen. So they're calling you because somebody liked you and put you on a list. After you submit a reference or an application, they're going to call you. So talk to them nicely. There's a lot of videos out on YouTube. I'm not going to go into that too much. The ones that people sleep on are these external recruiters. These guys are a little tricky. Because they rarely result in any interviews. You can talk to thousands of recruiters and you'll get maybe one or two interviews. They call you asking, hey, I want your resume, or I want you to sign up for this job or apply for it or put my name down or whatever. If they're really serious, they'll have you sign a representation form, and some of them do, and then you know that they're actually legit. Most of them don't. But the cool thing about these guys is they're a great source of intel. So first, start by being nice and polite. A lot of these guys can really irritate you, and you want to tell them to go away and, hang up the phone on them. But you can really mind them. So there's 3 types of external recruiter interactions that I deal with. If it's a trade down or they're just clueless in general, again, be nice and polite, and you can start asking questions about your resume. What is it about my resume you like? What is it about my resume you don't like? Hey, this is my salary. Am I compensated fairly in your opinion? This is like if they call you and they say, we're offering a job that's below your level or whatever. Likely, they're going to call you and ask you to trade across, which is a role that you already have. Again, I like to talk to these guys just because you can mine them for information. Whenever they pick up the phone, usually they don't talk to a lot of people, but when you do pick up the phone and talk to them, it's usually the first time that your profile or resume is being seen, because they tend to do a search on LinkedIn or whatever, and they're not looking at you individually. They're looking at all the people that hit that search. And just be open and honest with them and say, look, I'm not interested in this role, but at some point they're going to realize that the role is probably not what you want, or it's just not the right match for you. There's going to be that instant where I can see how this is going to fit. At that moment, you say, okay, so what is it about my resume that looks good for you? You can ask them company info, like, hey, this company over here, have you heard anything good about them? You can say, what is the salary band of the role that I'm in currently? And they'll usually tell you, like, other companies or this or that. I've had some recruiters tell me inside information about companies. I've had some people tell me stock secrets that I didn't act on, but it was kind of weird. So you can get a lot of weird stuff that you can drag up. And usually they're more than open to talk about you with whatever you ask them. You can also ask them, hey, what does it take to get to the next level? And they'll tell you, looking at your resume, you need to really kind of get some certifications or go back to school or whatever it is. So trading up, this is a good one. Again, I encourage you to talk to these people. Ask them some open-ended questions and allow them just to talk. The reason why is because they want you to take this job because it's going to be better for them. They're going to get a cut of whatever you make. So they're going to actively try to coach you in order to get you to take this job. So they're going to be a lot more open in this situation. Again, are there any things you like or don't like about my resume? It's free resume consulting. And then you can say, hey, I want to make, and you never really want to tell them what you exactly make. You want to tell them, the first question they're going to ask really is, what do you make now? You never tell them what you make now. You tell them, for my next role, I want to make X. I want to make, $100,000 in my next role. Okay, great. And then they'll say, well, that's not in the budget or whatever. And then you ask what the budget is. What is the salary band for this role? And normally they'll tell you just because they want you to take this job. So you can get that from them first. Say, what's the salary band for this role? And then put yourself at the high end of the band. There's a lot of games you can play with these guys. So I would encourage you to talk to recruiters if you can. Just be nice and polite about it. So in the ICS world that I'm in, one of the bosses that I encounter quite a bit is the road. And the road has some nasty attacks and stressful for your family, bad health choices. It's hard to eat good on the road. You end up, sometimes drinking too much. You have to cut out alcohol and all that. So just be very careful with that. Fit in some exercise, moderate your drinking, maybe a couple drinks the last night you're on the road or something. Intermittent fasting helps quite a bit. And just slow down. A lot of times people on the road are like pushing to accomplish a bunch of stuff to get to the, get the job done with, working 12, 15 hours sometimes. Try to slow down and take some time for yourself. Thank you. Any questions or concerns, observations? 30 minutes. It was longer when I was practicing it.